Raiders, it's time to head topside, and after more than 100 hours between tech tests, server slams, and special creator events, we've got loads of tips and tricks that will take you from this to this. My name is Kodiak, this is Legacy Gaming, and here's everything we wish we knew sooner about Arc Raiders. Depending on where you are when a fight breaks out, having line of sight on your enemy is a top priority. Be aware that you can swap shoulders with X on keyboard or by pressing in your right thumbstick on controller. You'll need to use this to peek appropriately around corners without exposing most of your body. Players not utilizing this will be at a significant disadvantage compared to those that are. When taking down certain PvE enemies known as arcs, it's important to realize some of their components can actually function as consumables or gadgets. If your shields are ever low and you're out of shield rechargers, arc power cells you come across can be consumed to replenish a portion of your shield. On the other hand, hornet drivers can be thrown to temporarily stun other larger arc units, similar to the showstopper grenade. Fireball burners can be thrown like blaze grenades and blanket an area in flames, and snitch scanners can be thrown towards enemy players to call down a wave of arc enemies on their position. Bottom line, if you don't need a component, consider throwing it instead. When setting up your custom loadout before launching an expedition, give your equipment the right amount of thought. Higher tier gear isn't always better. The higher the tier of your raider augment, the more inventory space you have, but that comes at the cost of one of your safe pockets. Additionally, the higher the tier of your shield you equip, the more it weighs. When you start factoring in your expanded inventory and new base weight just from your gear, you'll need to be more selective in what you pick up during your run, or risk getting over encumbered quickly. Now, when spending skill points, especially when you're just starting out, I highly recommend investing in stamina before anything else. It'll help you outrun enemies when fleeing or chasing, and you'll notice a significant difference in your character's performance compared to others that haven't made the same investment. Finally, increase your stash space as soon as possible. You can do this by pressing the icon in the top left of your stash. The first two increases require coins, which you can get from selling off resources and components, but after those two upgrades, you'll be required to use Raider tokens, the game's premium currency. Don't worry, you can get these without paying a dime, you just need to spend cred in the battle pass, which you get by completing challenges. In Arc Raiders, half the battle is about coming prepared. Sure, you can scavenge for ammo and supplies topside, but when you're pushing into hotly contested points of interest or braving a night raid, you're going to need to enter fully prepared for the increased challenges ahead. Moving away from standard bandages and into sterilized bandages is key to effectively maintaining your health during a fight. That means focusing on getting the medical station upgraded as soon as possible and keeping an eye out for the recipe in the world. Bandages are important because whenever you take damage, even if you have a shield on, a bit of that damage will pass through the shield and go straight to your character's health. So in practice, even if you have a fully charged shield but only a sliver of health, having a shield at that point is effectively useless. You want to aim to keep your health topped off or regenerating during a fight, and if you fall below half health, healing should be the priority over recharging your shield. Once you're more confident with the game, you'll want to focus on recharging those shields, and having 1 to 2 full stacks of shield chargers will be essential to sustaining yourself and sometimes your teammates during engagements. If you run out of these, don't panic, there are solutions. Anytime you take out an arc enemy, you might loot an arc power cell. These aren't just for crafting, you can actually use them as a consumable to replenish a small amount of your shields. If that isn't an option, you can also craft items mid-expedition. Always be on the lookout for arc power cells and metal parts. You'll need those to craft shield rechargers, and if you don't end up using the materials, they're worth stashing anyways. While looting the world, keep an eye out for Raider hatch keys. They are rare, but when you have one, you and your squad can extract from any Raider hatch on the map almost instantly. Be warned, these are consumed on you, so if you don't need to use them, stash them in your safe pocket and save them for another run. Finally, always keep either a zip line or a snap hook on you. Both can be crafted once you locate their recipes, but they can also be looted in the world, so whenever you see one, grab it and either use it that run or stash it for a future run. Ultimately, you want everyone to have at least one form of traversal to get out of bad situations or to get across areas, especially on the more difficult expeditions. When it comes to progression in Arc Raiders, I'd argue that XP is the most important thing for your long-term success. While it never gives you any sort of damage bonus, which would truly break the PvP, you do gain some significant benefits over time through your skill tree, such as a much larger stamina pool, quicker stamina regeneration, climbing speed, quietness of looting. The list really goes on. However, you'll only unlock those benefits if you build up a massive amount of experience. The good news is that pretty much everything awards XP, looting items, damaging arcs and players, knocking out players, completing challenges, and more. What I bet you didn't know is that you can actually supercharge the XP you earn every run. When looting, be aware that you don't actually need to loot an item to get XP. Simply opening a container that currently has or once had an item will give you experience. Those buildings that are already cleaned out by another team still provide XP, and making use of this tip from the very beginning of your time with the game can supercharge your levels, and that means faster skill tree progression. Guys, I've been trying to save money since I was 16 scooping ice cream, but without a budget, it really didn't matter how much I brought in because I wasn't saving smart. That's where today's sponsor, Rocket Money, comes in. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that allows you to manage subscriptions, lower bills, make a custom budget, and grow your savings all in one place. That's what we want, right? Convenience at the tip of our fingers, especially when it comes to our money. I love being able to track the ups and downs, especially those pesky subscriptions. I can't even count how many I have at this point, but I know that the second I want to cancel one, Rocket Money has my back. In just a few taps, that subscription is canceled and my wallet's just a bit more full. On top of that, I can budget smarter and keep my spending in check, which is fantastic when I'm trying to find some balance in my life. If you guys are looking to take control of your finances, and I mean really get a handle on your savings and your spending, go to rocketmoney.com/legacygaming and you can get started for free. Again, that's rocketmoney.com/legacygaming. Movement is king in Arc Raiders, and understanding every subtle trick can be the difference between being the hunter or being the hunted. Whenever you're moving around the world, do so with your weapons stowed. By pressing 5 on keyboard or by holding your cycle weapons button on controller, you'll put your current weapon away and increase your run speed by a substantial amount. This helps ensure you clear large gaps and reach the ledges you'd otherwise totally miss had you had your weapons drawn. If you're in a pinch and need to regain your stamina quickly, standing still will regenerate it much quicker. However, if you take the Calming Stroll perk in the conditioning tree, you'll also gain it back while walking, making you much less of a sitting target. If you're someone that can't help but jump and roll at every opportunity, you're actually hamstringing yourself. These actions use the most stamina in the game, and they do so quickly. You might be tempted to spam them after getting shot, but you're actually more likely to get caught if that first roll doesn't get you behind cover. Be more deliberate in your actions, more intentional with your movements, and you'll see some more success. Also, be aware that you can slide in Arc Raiders, and many surfaces are literally designed to enhance that downward momentum. Not only is sliding quieter than running, but while in the sliding state, you regenerate stamina. This can help you edge out that extra distance when escaping a fight or chasing down targets. When on a super tall building or surface, if you need to get to the ground quickly, don't have a zip line, you still have some options. Backing up to the ledge and falling as close to the building as possible will let you time your clamber button and grab onto ledges, railings, and more, negating all damage in the process. If you have no other choice but to jump from a relatively unsafe height, you can actually negate most, if not all, of that fall damage by timing a roll when your feet touch the ground. You won't go into the sprained ankle animation either, which will help preserve your running momentum. Lastly, I want to point out that you can climb on top of enemy machines, especially wasps and hornets. They will eventually lose aggro when you're on top and attempt to return to their patrol path. This can be used to get to higher up areas easily and quickly, or as a way to get a good angle on top of them to wreak havoc with your melee weapon. Running around on foot and manually reviving your teammates is all well and good, but utilizing gadgets will bring your gameplay to that next level. The first major gadget everyone needs to be making use of is the zip line. This thing feels like a cheat code in so many different ways. It allows you to get on top of tall structures or down quickly and safely. Likewise, if you're pinned behind cover and enemies are closing in, you can toss the zip line and rocket away, allowing you to get a more advantageous position. If you're over encumbered and need to get across an area quickly, zip lines, well, they're your friend. There are so many situations where this gadget can get you into the exact position you need to be and should be in heavy rotation. If you're lucky while looting, you'll also come across a snap hook. This is essentially a handheld grappling hook with limited uses, and it allows you to grapple the surface and ledges much quicker than a zip line. Last up, if you're in a team, you shouldn't go anywhere without a defibrillator. Reviving a teammate manually is incredibly time-consuming and leaves tons of opportunities for enemy players to get the jump on you. The defibrillator, while only a single-use gadget, makes reviving a teammate a breeze, only taking 1 to 2 seconds before getting them back into the fight. You can catch a lot of enemy players off guard this way if your teammate goes down next to you, because most of the time they won't be expecting them to immediately jump back into the fight. It's a life-saving tool, and once you discover the recipe to craft them, you shouldn't head topside without one. When playing in a team, getting knocked down might feel awful, but it's far from a reason to give up on your run. You aren't dead, far from it, and that means there's a very real opportunity for your teammates to revive you, all while you continue contributing during the process. Don't remain stationary when you get knocked. Not only is it harder for your teammates to reach you safely, but you're missing out on providing value to your team. To help ensure you can pick up a teammate that's knocked, carry smoke grenades. These are great at concealing you during the revive animation and also keep your team concealed while avoiding getting shot in the process. When you're downed, you can still ping, and that's the value. It's so vital you understand this, because pinging an enemy for your teammates almost functions like a mini wall hack in ways, giving your teammates a very noticeable advantage over the other team to the point it can quite literally win you a fight. Not only can you crawl and ping when knocked down, but you can still interact with just about everything. That means you can open and close doors, activate consoles, and even engage with the extraction elevator. Yeah, you heard me right. The devs hooked with this game, and there's even a special animation for when you get knocked down, but can still complete the override sequence. If your team is fighting for their life and you're being ignored, it's not a bad strategy to activate the console and get your allies into the elevator right as the doors are closing. So long as you're just knocked and not completely dead, if you're in that elevator when it closes, you'll still extract. When it comes to having a successful run in Arc Raiders, a lot of it comes down to not sabotaging yourself, because let me tell you, a good chunk of the deaths we've seen come from bad positioning and rushed decision making. One of the biggest things to avoid is blocking your teammates. Player collision can quite often get you or a teammate killed when you're both panicking to get inside a room or behind cover. This is doubly true for when multiple people are trying to hit the same target and you're blocking each other's shot by being too close or not crouching if you're out in front. Stay calm and keep some distance at all times. Another thing every player in every group needs to be doing is pinging to communicate. Even if you're talking with your friends in voice chat, having an actual in-game callout and visual indicators on your team's HUD can dramatically help keep everyone on the same page. This is going to sound obvious, but believe me, it didn't feel that way during all of our testing. Patience and situational awareness will win you a majority of your fights. If there is one thing players need to become better at, it's that. Because of the third-person nature of the game and having so much of the environment visible around you at any given time, running headfirst into an unknown area can and often will get you killed quickly. Corner peeking is a very real thing, and if you're not expecting someone to pop out at every corner, you're nothing more than an easy target waiting to be filled with lead. In the very likely occurrence that one of your teammates goes down and you've unlocked or looted a defibrillator, I highly recommend everyone on the team carries at least one at all times. These make reviving teammates insanely fast and can often be the turning point for your team during a fight. Now, last in this series of team play focused tips, always be on the move and try your best to clean up fights quickly. If a fight goes on for too long, you can almost always expect one or two teams to drop whatever they're doing and beeline to your position for a quick third-party wipe. I don't blame them either. It's free loot and you'll be exposed, so don't make that mistake. If you've ever been ambushed by a squad of players or walked into a pack of Arc enemies, it's likely because you simply weren't paying attention to sound. Arc Raiders has some of the best directional audio we've experienced in a modern competitive game, and understanding how your actions generate noticeable sounds is your key to better matches. Whenever you're entering a building or near an area you hear commotion, crouch or walk slowly to generate the least amount of noise possible. Things as simple as reloading your weapon, pinging a location or target, or moving too quickly will generate a noticeable sound. This also carries over to things like climbing. Not only is the process slow, but it's surprisingly noisy. You should pick your times carefully when you're going to climb a surface because you never know who might be listening right around the corner. The same goes for breaching. It's extremely loud and will be audible to players and arc machines in that general area. If you ever hear or see enemies approaching while you're breaching, don't continue the process. Believe it or not, your breach progress actually saves, so if enemies are coming for you, or you're already getting shot at, just let it go and return once the threat has been addressed. Did you also know that you can distract or aggro arcs onto other players? All you need is something like those little rubber duckies you find all over the map. These can be thrown like a grenade and will actually emit a squeaking sound when they impact the surface, causing arcs to immediately shift their attention. This makes for a great distraction when you need to flee by waylaying a pursuing enemy. You should also be listening and watching for radar flares or arc machines that have been alerted to another player's presence, denoted by a yellow light emitted from their sensors. It's a dead giveaway that at least one or more players are in that area. Finally, when shooting another player, you can actually tell when that enemy is shielded and even when that shield breaks. Sparks indicate you're damaging a shielded enemy, but when it lets out an electrical explosion followed by a clanking metal sound, you know that enemy no longer has their shield up. If you aren't making use of your melee weapon in Arc Raiders, not only are you wasting ammunition, you're also likely giving away your position to other players for absolutely no reason. We have seen so many players use their guns to kill ticks, pops, various flying drones, and even traps within the environment. This results in unnecessary noise that alerts more machines to your position and can be heard by players even from extreme distances. Because the directional audio in this game is so good, they can pinpoint where you are in an instant. Your melee weapon isn't just for breaching containers and sliding down zip lines. In fact, it actually has two different types of attacks. Left click is a sweeping attack from side to side, which is great for anything you're fighting at the same height as your character, but as soon as something is below or above you, especially smaller targets, you'll want to use the overhead heavy attack. Unsurprisingly, this uses more stamina but also deals more damage, which is perfect for machines. Pops and ticks will often die in one hit, while you can easily clip off a drone's engine with a downward swing. Try and go for that melee kill first. It's effective, can help you remain stealthy, and will save you resources in the process. If there's one thing we constantly see players doing in Arc Raiders, and yes, are guilty of ourselves, it's triggering all of the different alert mechanics you find throughout the various maps. The first and most common trap you'll come across are those pesky metal detectors commonly found on the other side of a closed door. When triggered, they can be heard from a significant distance away, and instead of shooting them and giving away your position, consider meleeing them instead. You'll also find security cameras all over the various facilities that you're looting. A single shot will take them out, and that's often worth the small amount of noise compared to what the camera will emit if it spots you. If you find yourself in an area with a lot of vehicles, just be careful you don't try and loot them or fire off your weapon too close to the ones that are subtly flashing. Doing so will cause a chain reaction of alarms that will have everyone on the map alerted to your presence. You can disable these by breaking their alarms, but it might be best to avoid them altogether. We should also talk about birds. Man, if there is one alert both Livid and myself constantly trigger, it's the various flocks of birds that rest on the ground. These can only be triggered by players, and as soon as a flock is disturbed, they'll make a ton of noise and fly up into the air, circling the spot where they were startled, before eventually settling back down. If you see birds flying around, be on alert that players are nearby, but don't just rush them blindly. You can cleverly use these to set traps for enemy squads, setting up a deadly ambush. We are in the depths of it now, guys, but you can honestly do this with all forms of alerts in the game, so you can turn a negative into a potential positive, knowing this info. In Arc Raiders, I'd argue everyone should aim to enter a match with a clear objective. Without one, you'll be running around aimlessly, increasing your chance you won't extract safely, allowing other teams to scoop up your hard-earned loot for themselves. Pay attention to the timer at the top of your screen. All maps last for 30 minutes before they're wiped by the Arc Orbiter. All maps operate on a rolling join system. If you get into a map and it's almost the full 30-minute timer, you have a completely fresh map. That means all the loot locations should be open and ripe for the picking. If you join and the timer is around 15 to 20 minutes, expect a lot of places to be picked clean, so plan to hit more unique locations or look to pick off players for their loot. You can and should make building and upgrading your workshop stations a priority. Whenever you enter the level up menu for items or crafting stations, you can opt to track recipes, which will allow you to check it during a match. This should dictate which objectives on the map you want to be specifically farming and fighting for control of. This also informs what sort of gear you should be bringing with you. If you're trying to go for components from the harder enemies like Leapers and Rocketeers, you're going to need weapons with heavy ammo and throwables that can stun these arcs temporarily. Going in with a light weapon and hoping to get lucky just won't cut it. Lastly, each building on the map tells you the abundance of loot at that location, but also the type of loot you'll be able to find there. Pay attention to the materials you need because they'll indicate where they come from, but it's up to you to identify what sort of container in each of those locations produces those types of materials. There's one major Arc Raiders tip that I don't think many players are talking about. If you weren't aware, night raids, which are special event maps, not only increase the density of Arc units, but also increase the amount and rarity of items you can potentially find when scavenging. You might be wondering why this is important. The answer is locked rooms, which you can only enter via a keycard. These rooms will almost always have even better loot during a night raid, so when you're deciding what map to play, this is when you truly want to bust out that stockpile of keycards you've been sitting on. Yes, you're more likely to get into fights during a night raid, but the potential return on that single keycard investment makes the juice absolutely worth the squeeze. So there you have it, everything we wish we knew sooner about Arc Raiders. As always, if you appreciate the work that goes into these videos, do me a solid, hit that thumbs up, and consider subscribing. We'll have way more Arc Raiders in your feed soon, so don't miss a thing. My name is Kodiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.